HKTDC Hong Kong Book Fair returns to the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center on July 21st. In terms of visitor numbers, the 7-day event is the world's largest Chinese language book fair. But this year, it's turning a new page with a hugely expanded English offering. The fair is attracting some of the world's finest English authors, including Anthony Horowitz. The HKTDC's Joe Kine spoke to him with a little help from some friends.
We've rounded up some of your biggest fans to help us with the questions. First question, though, is from me. Tell us about the latest novel involving your teenage spy, Alex Rider.
The book that was most recently published was Crocodile Tears, number 8 in the series, which sent Alex off to Kenya in pursuit of a fake charity. And that was published in England a few months ago in paperback. It was published last year in hardcover and is the one but last Alex Rider. I'm now writing the last one at this moment.
Hi, I'm Tanaya. What can we expect in the last Alex Rider novel?
Well, they can expect a great deal from book number 9, which I'm very excited about. It's a very dark Alex Rider novel. It is very definitely the last one, and as you read it, you sort of get a sense of there is no way out of this. There is only one possible conclusion. I'm about halfway through it at the moment, and this one is set in Egypt. Curiously, it came about because I was invited, as in Hong Kong, to a book fair in Cairo, which is one of the great things about traveling the world. It's not just meeting people and talking books, it's also finding the inspiration for the next one.
Hi, I'm Natalie. What do you like most about writing for young people?
I think one of the great things about being a children's author these days, or a writer for young adults, whatever you want to call it, is that it's such a world audience. That's the first thing. And I think that the enthusiasm that I find all over the world for the books is enormously gratifying. I'm a great believer in the power and the importance of reading, and of also reading other cultures than your own, and to sort of be inadvertently almost a messenger of that, because after all, at the end of the day, all I'm doing is writing entertainments. But to have this sort of side effect, I do find enormously rewarding.
Hi, I'm Reese. How do you choose topics for your books?
Well, the books will normally start with something I read in the newspapers. So, for example, in Crocodile Tears, Alex number 8, I read a report about the possibility that some of the money that was given by people in the West for the terrible tsunami disaster that happened, I think, in 2004, some of that money did not reach the victims of the tsunami. And this was to do with not so much corruption, but as incompetence as much as anything else. And it began to make me think about the whole nature of charity. And it struck me that was a valid subject for a book, and so that was the inspiration of it. At the same time, I met somebody who was doing very, very good charity work in South London, and immediately saw in him the villain for the book, and sort of that helped. So, you know, where the inspiration comes from is normally newspaper stories, meeting people, and just thinking about things generally and about sort of, you know, day-to-day life.
Anthony, you're known for your plot twists and the way that you mix up serious subjects with a bit of humor. Why do you think that appeals to readers?
I'm not sure there's any answer to that question. I mean, I can tell you where it came from. I have a great love of Charles Dickens, and he was a writer who knew brilliantly how to mix the macabre, the serious, the sociological, with the humorous and the extravagant and the grotesque. And that was almost sort of my education.
Hi, I'm Lucy. What made you want to be an author, and when did you start?
Well, I wrote my first book when I was about 8 years old, and I knew at that age that I was going to be an author, and there was no plan B. It was an author or nothing. Part of the reason for that is that I was no good at anything else. I mean, as a kid, I was in many ways very unsatisfactory, both physically and intellectually. I was considered a complete waste of desk space by my teachers, which isn't a great start in life. But at a very, very early age, I discovered 2 things. One, that I was very happy in the library, and that books meant an awful lot to me, and that I could lose myself quite literally in escape into stories and forget the real world, and secondly that I had a facility for telling stories.
Hi, I'm Olivia. Did you have another job before you started writing?
I was briefly in advertising. I was a copywriter, so I was still a writer. I wasn't very good at it. I wasn't interested in products. I'm interested in stories, you see, and there's no real story in shampoos or banks or cross-channel ferries, which were my main clients. So I was pretty useless at it, but what it gave me was an office with computers and typewriters and paper and photocopiers, everything a writer needs, in other words. So it was a wonderful environment to be in, even if I wasn't actually much good at what I was meant to be doing.
Hi, I'm Bethan, and I wanted to know which is your favourite books and why.
I can answer that quite easily. It's Stormbreaker, the first Alex Rider novel. It's not the best Alex book, but it's my favorite because it was the first one. And you know, that book changed my life completely. Before that, I'd been moderately successful. I was selling maybe 10, 15,000 copies a year of each book. But after Stormbreaker, something broke, and suddenly I found myself selling hundreds of thousands and even millions of books. And it was all thanks to a 14-year-old kid called Alex Rider, and I discovered him for the first time in Stormbreaker. So it's still my favorite book.
Hi, I'm Matthew. Why are you most proud of the Power of 5 books?
Would I really say I was prouder of one book than the other? What I can say is this. I do think with the Power of 5 series, one of which incidentally is set in Hong Kong, is, if I say it's sort of the book I was meant to write, does that sound awful and sort of silly? I don't know, but I do get the feeling that there is something in those books that sort of somehow matters.
Hi, my name is Miles, and I would like to know, what is your favourite book by another author and why?
I read all the time, and I've already mentioned Charles Dickens, and I do read a lot of quite serious 19th century fiction, which is to me the sort of the great mountain peak of literature, because, you know, if only I could write as well as that. It's writing at its very, very best. But at the same time, I like to read light fiction, Harlan Coben, the thriller writer, Stephen King, who writes, I used to love his books, the early ones. I think his horror novels are terrific. I read other writers for young adults occasionally to sort of see what other people are doing. Patrick Ness I've recently read, The Knife of Never Letting Go, a very, very good book. Louis Sachar is a writer I admire very much. So the truth is that I try to read something. I can't actually sleep unless I read something every day.
Hi, I'm Serena. Is it true that you named the villains in your book after your old teachers?
I'm afraid all the people who taught me when I was a kid have been in my books, and I've killed every single one of them. I have a great respect for teachers today, but unfortunately back in the sort of 60s when I was at school, there were a lot of very, very nasty teachers around, and it does amuse me to pluck some of them out of my memory, put them into the books, and do horrible things to them.
Hi, I'm Gennady. Is it possible to make the gadgets from the Alex Rider series in real life?
I have two rules about the gadgets. The first one, for what it's worth, is that they should be something that a teenager might have, and that they, and at the same time, shouldn't be lethal, because we don't normally have Alex killing people with the gadgets. But the second and much, much more important rule is exactly that the gadgets have to be realistic. They have to be within the bounds of probability. You know, for my money, I think some of the later James Bond films got it completely wrong. You know, you put an invisible car into a movie, and everybody knows that can't exist, so you don't believe in the rest of the film. The Alex Rider one's gadgets all have to be based on real technology and have to be vaguely within the bounds of probability.
Well, what intrigues you about coming to Asia and specifically to Hong Kong for the book fair?
Well, I've been to Hong Kong before. In fact, I got married there 23 years ago. I was married on the harbour front. I was back there a few years ago researching Necropolis, which is the 4th book in the Power of 5 series. Hong Kong is, of course, a fascinating place, being as it is a crossroads between two great civilizations, the sort of portal both between the East and the West. And with Asia obviously in the news at the moment as being this huge resurgent power in the 21st century, it is sure, but Asia is going to be very, very dominant indeed. I think it's vitally important for writers like myself, for all writers, for all business people for that matter, to immerse themselves in that other culture, to try to learn and to try to show what we do.
Hi, I'm Rika. What do you want to learn in Hong Kong?
Meeting other writers is a wonderful experience. I mean, it's very, very heartening. Here in Britain, we tend to be quite parochial, you know. We have a sort of a resistance, really, to any books that are translated that come across from the sea. And it's surprising how very, very few children's authors from other countries are read over here. Well, the Alex Rider books are in about something like 30-odd languages now, and that always I find very, very encouraging. It says something about the sort of nature of childhood, if you like, that, you know, young people all over the world enjoy basically the same things, and actually under the skin, although, you know, the world has a long history of disputes, underneath the skin, when you really look carefully, there's more that unites us than divides us. And for me, meeting young people from other cultures and listening to their response to the books is deeply heartening, actually. It's the one thing I find great about my position, that somehow, not by design, but just by some kind of fluke, I can write books that will appeal to a young boy or girl in Hong Kong or in Egypt or, you know, almost anywhere in the world, and they come together in my books. I'm quite proud of that.
Anthony Horowitz, thanks for talking with us, and we'll see you here for the Hong Kong Book Fair. Bye.